Good morning, everybody. It is Sunday morning, May 25th, and I am Dr. Patmos, and I have a video for you today about Robert Kennedy. He is at it again. For those of you who don't know this, Robert Kennedy last year fired all of the members of the Center for Disease Control Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices and appointed a new committee. Now, that new committee immediately set about making ridiculous recommendations. The many medical groups, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American College of Physicians, and others, filed suit in federal court against Kennedy and this ridiculous committee of unqualified people. And the court basically threw out everything that the committee said, put a stay on everything the committee did, and concluded that Kennedy had illegally fired the previous members of the committee and illegally impaneled people on the new committee, which the court also reviewed their credentials and found out that these people are distinctly unqualified. Every single one of them, including the vice chair, were labeled by the court, judged by the court to be undistinct, not just unqualified, distinctly unqualified. The vice chair was even found to lack qualifications and experience to advise the public on vaccines. And this is someone who holds themselves out to be a global vaccine expert. Well, the CDC ACIP now is in limbo. It's suspended, and nothing is coming forward from the CDC. It's a real tragedy, but it's gotten worse because now Kennedy has just fired the two leaders of the United States Public Health Services Task Force. So, first of all, what is the United States Public Health Services Task Force? That's a task force of volunteer experts. I believe these people volunteer their time. I don't think they're compensated. And what they do is they go through the literature and based upon their expertise and the medical literature, they recommend what screening tests are appropriate and what screening tests should be done and should not be done. Now, you might ask, well, why wouldn't you do a screening test? Well, you wouldn't want to waste a lot of resources and screen a population of people who are unlikely to have a problem. You wouldn't want to screen a whole bunch of little boys for cervical cancer, for example. That's an extreme, ridiculous example, but it makes the point. You wouldn't want to screen a bunch of men for cervical cancer. They don't have a cervix. So what you would accomplish is not only wasting an enormous amount of resources, but you might get a false positive test, which would then lead you into a bunch of further testing, which could lead to harm. That's the sort of the gist behind studying and recommending what screening tests are appropriate. Everybody who makes a screening test, all the companies that manufacture screening tests, they would screen everybody, even if it's the odds of finding anything are 1 in a billion, they would still screen because they're making money selling the screening tests. So we have this committee of experts who advise us about what screening tests should and should not be done. And the two leaders of that committee were just fired by Robert Kennedy. And I think it's important to know who Kennedy doesn't like, who he just fired. So the chair of that committee is Dr. John Wong, and Dr. Wong has some pretty impressive credentials. He is an internal medicine physician. He has a fellowship training in informatics, specifically in clinical decision making. He's a master of the American College of Physicians. He's an associate editor of the Annals of Internal Medicine. He's a distinguished professor at Tufts, and he's the director of the Comparative Effectiveness Research Department at Tufts. This is exactly the kind of person you want doing this kind of job. He's as highly trained as anybody in the country in this area. The other person that Kennedy fired is Dr. Issa Davis, who's a family physician. She's a professor at University of Maryland. She's associate vice president of community health and a senior associate dean for population health. Another person who's extraordinarily well qualified in this area. So you have people who are probably as highly qualified as any people in the country. I don't think you could find two people with better qualifications to be on this committee than Dr. Wong and Dr. Davis. Yet Kennedy fires them. And what is the rationale that he gave for firing them? He said, well, the committee has been lackadaisical and hasn't done much lately. He blocked the committee from meeting. Its last three scheduled meetings were canceled by Robert Kennedy. And then he comes out and says, well, this committee hasn't met. They've been lackadaisical, so I'm firing the two top people on the committee. It's outrageous. Now, what's next for Kennedy? I'm really curious to see who he appoints in their place. My prediction is he will appoint people who are far, far less qualified, like he did with the ACIP. He took people who were really elite qualified people, like vaccine experts, Dr. Paul Offit, and fired people like that and replaced them with people who the court found don't even have basic credentials to warrant being on the committee. So I think that Kennedy will do the same thing with the Public Health Services Task Force. Now that he's fired Dr. Wong and Dr. Davis, he'll replace them with people who are completely unqualified, and I'm dying to see who he chooses. So, what is his agenda? Well, and what is it about screening that he doesn't like? Well, obviously, I think Kennedy wants to promote a lot of woo-woo medicine, and he's going to use the U.S. Public Health Services Task Force to do that, probably to get approval for or get the committee to say that everybody should be wearing glucose monitors. That way, people can go out and Kennedy and his friends can make a lot of money selling glucose monitors. This is all grift and conflict of interest, and it's all profit driven, I think, and it's agenda driven. But the one thing that I think is most amazing is that the people that are the very elite, the very highest levels of medicine, Kennedy hates them. He despises people who are highly credentialed, well trained, and experts who have expertise. That's not who he wants. He wants Joe the barber or Joe the plumber on these committees, relatively speaking, because I guess he maybe feels more comfortable with them. Anyhow, let's see who he ends up appointing.